The scale of the destruction and loss of life make it the worst in India since independence 46 years ago.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're taking a look at 10 of the worst natural disasters of the 90s.
An entire middle-class neighborhood was gone.
I just felt really helpless. Everything I'd learnt before was no use at all in the earthquake.
Whole towns were flattened. Villages have simply disappeared.
For this list, we're looking at the most devastating and deadly storms, earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, mudslides, heat waves, and other natural phenomena the planet experienced from 1990 to 1999. Let us know in the comments which of these events you'll always remember. Number 10. Tropical Storm Linda. This typhoon swept out from the South China Sea and raged through southern Vietnam in November 1997, leaving a trail of ruined homes, crops, and infrastructure. The worst typhoon to hit the area in at least a century, Linda reached wind speeds of 75 miles per hour and carried on into Thailand, only blowing out once it crossed over into the Bay of Bengal. In Vietnam alone, Tropical Storm Linda caused $385 million in damages and 3,100 deaths. It also resulted in the deaths of 164 people in Thailand, including 152 fishermen who were out at sea. Number 9. The 1998 China floods. The summer of 1998 was a catastrophic one for flooding. In low-lying Bangladesh, 3/4 of the country was left underwater after heavy rainfall, leaving 30 million homeless and over 1,000 dead. That same summer in China, the Yangtze River broke its banks and flooded an even larger area, killing at least 3,700 people. Water from the deluge flowed into villages and towns, destroying millions of homes and causing billions of dollars in damage. Flooding from the Nen, Songhua, and Pearl Rivers added to the mayhem. Number 8. The Great Hanshin Earthquake. One of Japan's biggest, most populated cities, Kobe was struck by a powerful earthquake in 1995. Japan is a country prone to seismic activity, but even so, the damage and death caused by the Great Hanshin Earthquake was unprecedented.
This was the most significant earthquake of the second half of the 20th century. This was a direct hit on as modern a society as you can have in the world, and was totally devastated.
In the 22nd event, much of Kobe's infrastructure was decimated, with an entire freeway collapsing and 400,000 buildings destroyed. Most devastating, however, was the more than 6,000 lives lost in the disaster.
The quake knocked tower blocks to the ground, toppled road bridges, and flattened entire neighborhoods of traditional Japanese houses.
Many more were displaced and made homeless, while the cost to repair the damage was around $200 billion. The disaster prompted the government to develop new earthquake policies, while in the immediate aftermath, over 1 million volunteers, including the Yakuza, helped with the relief effort.
The Kobe disaster forced the Japanese to reappraise just how earthquake-proof their cities really are. They can't change their earthquake-prone country, but the lessons learned from Kobe will save thousands of lives when another major earthquake strikes.
Number 7. The 1993 Latour Earthquake. In the early hours of September 30th, 1993, the Indian state of Maharashtra was shaken by a high-magnitude earthquake. The location worst affected was the city of Latour. It was all the more intense because the quake itself was relatively shallow, causing larger, stronger tremors.
The distant rumble was recorded in Edinburgh. Tremors were felt up to 1,000 kilometers from its epicenter.
Almost 10,000 people were killed in the disaster, and many more displaced.
The shock of the devastation left many with little to do but mourn their dead.
In the years since, India has vastly improved its ability to monitor earthquakes and seismic activity so that any future earthquakes can be managed more effectively. Nonetheless, even decades later, many people in the region are still living with the weight of what was lost that day. Number 6. The 1999 Orissa Cyclone. In late October 1999, a deadly tropical cyclone struck India's eastern coast, battering the state of Odisha with 160-mile-per-hour winds. It was the most intense cyclone to strike the North Indian Ocean in history, reaching Category 5 and generating a massive storm surge that swept 20 miles inland. Combined with the heavy rain, the surge led to widespread flooding and damaged 1.6 million homes, destroyed crops and livestock, and took the lives of nearly 9,900 people. Though the vast majority of deaths were in India, the cyclone also caused fatalities in Bangladesh and Myanmar. Number 5. Hurricane Mitch. This Category 5 hurricane was one of the deadliest ever recorded, second only to the Great Hurricane of 1780 that devastated the Lesser Antilles.
Hurricane Mitch became a monster Category 5 storm in the middle of the Caribbean near the end of October. That's a very rare event. Nobody expected the Mitch to get that strong.
Hurricane Mitch struck Central America in late October 1998. Honduras and Nicaragua got the worst of it, but the hurricane spread far enough northeast to affect not only parts of Florida, but also the British Isles on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean.
Mitch was so big that while its center covered the land, its spinning edges sucked up vast amounts of water vapor from the Pacific and the Caribbean. It then poured it straight back down again onto the land.
Though the Honduran Air Force undertook a valiant rescue mission, airlifting many people to safety, approximately 11,000 people, 7,000 of them Hondurans, lost their lives. Many of these deaths were the result of catastrophic mudslides. Infrastructure was annihilated across Central America, with millions of people left homeless and without food or fresh water.
Whole communities were buried alive in rivers of mud, and many of those who survived watched their homes, relatives, and possessions swept away.
Number 4, the 1999 Izmit earthquake. With its epicenter just a few miles from the city of Izmit, this earthquake devastated northwestern Turkey in August 1999.
We have never had an earthquake that have affected such a large geographical area.
Identify other areas that are in need of attention.
And the authorities took a long while before they had an overview of what was the impact and where was the affected areas.
The tremors were felt throughout the country, with much of the destruction occurring in Izmit, as well as Istanbul, the nation's largest city. The earthquake caused a staggering 17,000 deaths. It was followed by a tsunami that killed 155 people. There were also severe aftershocks, and a dangerous fire broke out at an oil refinery. Greece, which has historically had a difficult relationship with Turkey, sent aid across the border. A month later, when the Greek city of Athens was hit by an earthquake, Turkey reciprocated in kind. Number 3, the Vargas tragedy. After weathering torrential rainfall from successive storms in December 1999, Venezuela experienced its worst disaster in recorded history. The sheer volume of rain destabilized the land and caused enormous mudslides, killing anywhere from 10,000 to 30,000 people. The exact death toll still isn't known. 60 miles of Venezuelan coastline close to the capital city of Caracas was destroyed. A huge relief effort was undertaken, with Venezuelan celebrities raising money for aid and even the United States offering to help. Over 10 years after the disaster, however, there were still people living in the coastal ruins that had been buried, yet to be rebuilt. Number 2, the Mangiel-Rudbar earthquake. In June of 1990, Iran was hit by a devastating earthquake. Its capital, Tehran, experienced catastrophic damage and tens of thousands of people were killed.
From the air, the sight is incredible. It looks as though some giant hand slapped down on a house of cards. Everything is flattened. Rows and rows and blocks of houses have become sticks.
It's estimated that between 35 and 45,000 people lost their lives to the quake, which had a magnitude of 7.4. But while much of Tehran suffered serious damage, the nearby cities of Mangiel and Rudbar, along with around 700 villages, were utterly destroyed by the disaster. Thousands more were injured, and up to 400,000 people found themselves homeless in the aftermath.
Aid workers quickly set up tents to house the homeless. The living conditions are less than desirable, but at least people now have a place where they can sleep until the rebuilding is completed.
Many individuals tragically died in the rubble before help could reach them due to the fact that so many roads were destroyed. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, the 1991 Bangladesh cyclone. Making landfall in Bangladesh in April 1991, this tropical cyclone was one of the deadliest in history. With winds of up to 160 miles per hour, it whipped up a 20-foot storm surge that devastated the country's coastline, causing $1.7 billion in damage and killing close to 139,000 people.
We thought there'd just be wind and rain, but the winds got so strong and the seawater flooded through. It swept away everything.
And this incomprehensible loss of life occurred despite an evacuation effort that saw as many as 3 million people leave the coast. In response to the disaster, the U.S. spearheaded Operation Sea Angel, diverting ships and soldiers to Bangladesh in a historic military relief effort that saved thousands of lives.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.